What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. Now, I've gotten quite a few comments from people asking for a step-by-step strategy to solo Nightmare 4, and we're going to go ahead and do that today. In my opinion, anyway, the easiest Nightmare 4 map is Life Route. I think a lot of people would agree with me. And really, you can skip all of the lesser maps and go right into Life Route after you've geared yourself up with some Nightmare 3 gear. Now, I of course am geared a little bit past that, but remember the first time I did Nightmare 4 was in Nightmare 3 gear, and you'll work into it slowly. I actually got lucky and was able to finish it probably like within my first maybe 5 or 6 attempts. I completed the map. Now I'm going to be bringing along 2 huntresses. One is my Traptress. I'll start with her. Now my stats are, like I said, they're way higher than necessary to do to solo Nightmare 4. It actually is starting to become very easy for me now. But basically, I dumped everything in my Traptress into defense power. I've got 4,044. A few items that you really want to have. I did max out my defense speed and the range as well. I threw the leftovers into tower health just for a little additional. Anyway, a few things that you want to have on your Traptress. Now to start off, you want a bow with tripwire. Now tripwire will go up to 10%, I believe. Sadly, as you see, my tripwire bow is 7%. Still not even fully upgraded, and I'm actively looking for a replacement. But currently, this is the best bow I've found so far, so that's what I'm sticking with. Ideally, you want a bow with a 10% tripwire on it, and defense power, of course. Now, as a bonus there, I've got the defense crit chance, plus 3%, which always helps. And having defense crit on any of your items, defense crit chance that is going to help out hugely. Now we'll move right along to your helmet. You want something with volatile schematics on it, where the trap effect radius is increased. This one is not spectacular, but same thing, it's the best one I've found so far. And it increases my trap radius by 9%, and has defense power and defense crit damage. The chest and the boots, you can pretty much go with just about anything you want. On the gloves, that Fing Longer is very helpful with increased defense interaction range. As you see, my gloves are currently my weakest piece right now. Then on to your relic. And your relic, you got a lot of room to play with. Defense power, I've got one with defense health on it just to add a little additional for my traps so I don't have to repair them. But you can go with defense crit damage as well, and that's going to be equally as helpful. The passives, you know, I have no passives on this relic that really helps out with the damage setup that I use. And then for a pet, I'm bringing along the Serpentagon, but any pet will work with defense power and defense crit damage. Now let's move on to my apprentice. Basically, you're just looking for Frosty. You want Frosty, or Frost Fire, ideally, on the Chilling Touch if you have that for a weapon. And then you want Frosty Power on every single one of your other pieces. Now, the maximum Frosty Power you can get is 10%. As you see, I am not maxed on all of them. I do have 10% on a few of them. And then on the weapon, the Frost Fire, which makes that Frostbite Tower chill, increase your defense speed of defenses in the area. Now, on this amulet, ideally you want to get Frosty Power on it. This particular one I found at 10%, which was kind of nice. And ideally you want defense. Well, actually, the defense crit damage doesn't even matter on this, because all we're going to be using our apprentice for is just for that Frosty. Now, I'm bringing along a defense power, defense health pet. Defense crit is not really going to help you out here in the Frosty build. A little extra defense health, though, never hurts. And, you know, helps give those towers a little bit more meat. Next off, we've got our Squire. Now, I'm going to be doing some builds here coming up real soon with how to use the Squire in a damage aspect with cannons and ballistas. But for the most part, every single build is going to require a wall Squire. Now, the wall Squires, you're going to have a couple of different things. All of your items, including your shield, just not your weapon, you're going to be looking for Hardy Blockade. Now, Hardy Blockade is 5% of your hero health is added to the Spike Blockade's defense health, which really makes the spec. It's what gives you your walls what they are. Then you want to stack everything into hero health and defense health as you get it. Ideally, you have a piece that has both defense health and hero health. You see, this is currently my weakest piece at only 3% Hardy. The main thing, all you're really concerned about here is your wall health. Now, I started doing Nightmare 4 at about 185,000 wall health. You see, now I'm up to 297, so in fantastic shape there. And then your pet, you're going to want to reroll so that it has defense health and hero health on it. And that's going to help stack that Frosty, or pardon me, stack the Hardy Barricades right on up to the roof. And then I'm going to be bringing along a Huntress for DPS. Now, you can bring along any class. You can bring along a Huntress, you can bring along an Apprentice, whatever you want. One thing to note with this build, though, is we have no Monk, so we don't have a Serenity Aura. So bringing along a tank is probably not the best idea. You definitely want to go with some ranged DPS. So let's go ahead and hop right on in and take a look at what we get here for the map. Alright, so we got the worst possible setup. The worst possible setup would be we've got physical damage resist and magic damage resist in the center. Ideally, you want physical in the neutral or both magic resist for the ultimate setup. So we got magic resist here, magic resist, physical resist, and then the neutral lane. Now remember, flyers are always neutral. You're not going to have a resist on them, so you don't have to worry about it. And whichever ranged DPS class you bring along, your main role is going to be to kill flyers and repair walls. So you definitely want to bring something along that's able to take out some flyers. Let's go ahead and get started with the build. Now, you know, there's a lot of different places where you can place your barricade or your blockades. I have been doing the same thing pretty much every time, and it works out for me real well. Now, to start off, you want your blockade at this. If you see this second post past this tree, that's where you're going to want to put your blockade. Now, you want your blockade so it's slightly towards the inside. What I mean by that is, you see the purple line of the mob path, you want that to be slightly to the left of the center of that blockade, as when the mobs come down, their natural pathing is going to be to hug this wall. Since they're making a left-hand turn, they're going to hug the wall to the left. Now the same thing on this side. The mobs are coming around making a turn, they're going to hug it to the right, so we're going to go ahead and center it slightly off to the left here. Now I put it right in line with those two red mushrooms, and then over to the left so that the mob path is all the way over to the right side of the barricade. Now, if you see this little dealie right here, it looks like a planter of some sort. No collision. That's going to be your marker for this blockade. So go ahead and throw your blockade there right in line with that, and you want this one to be pretty close to dead center. I'm actually a little bit over to the left just because of the placement with the planter thing there. Now let's go ahead and hop on over to the Frosty. Now remember, your Frosty is going to be buffing all your traps, but it is also going to be one-shotting all your flyers. Not all your flyers, but any of the flyers it freezes. So you want to make sure that on your Frosty setup, you're using the freeze sphere in your large, which is a 45% chance for the Frostbite Tower to freeze its target at the end of its channel. That freeze is going to instantly kill all the flyers and make them drop, which is very, very nice. So I always start off with one up on the barrel. Basically, we're going to be putting down 4 on each side here. I do another one right in front of the barrel, another one directly behind it, and the fourth just kind of centered off here. Now, where you put these, you can move them around, try it out, depending on what your range is and such. All you really want to do is you want to keep them far enough away from the blockade where the ogres aren't going to one-shot them with their stomp. If you depending on where you have the blockade, you can put one up here. You can also put one right here on this little tree stub that puts out, which is another good spot. But you don't want them on the ground. See, that's another nice spot for one. You don't want them on the ground right behind the blockades, though. You want to try to keep everything elevated. Now over here, we're going to put down 4 on this side as well. Now we've got this lovely little cutout, which helps us out a bit, as it does shield just a touch from those dive bombers. Of course, nothing more irritating than getting your frosty towers blown out by the flyers that want to come down and blow stuff up. Now I'm going to go with 2, one directly behind the other. The third, I'm going to kind of center between those two and just to the right. And then the fourth is going to be directly behind it. Now we're going to place 5 Frosties here in the center. Now, an important thing to notice with the blockade this far back, if you have a Frosty on the ground right here, or even right here, the ogres that are beaten on this blockade are actually going to destroy that tower with the stomp. So, to keep that from happening, we're going to go ahead and elevate it up on the rail there for number 1. Number 2 is going to be directly in front of it. This little hump right here does provide a little elevation, so I'm going to put one there, and any ogre on this blockade is not going to be able to stomp that one out. And then I'd like to tuck 2 of them in right behind this rail. The reason being is if any dive bombers come in on this side, they've got a good chance of flying in and hitting right here and not blowing up your Frosty. No, I will never call them Frostbite Towers. They will always be Frosties to me. Anyway, that's going to do it for our apprentice, so let's hop right on over to our Traptress. Now, have to look at the resist on the lanes, of course, and another thing to remember is since we're going to be DPSing on our other Huntress, we want to look at where we're going to have the least amount of effect. Now, magic resistor lane over here, so we want to get a lot of physical damage on this lane. The center is going to be split with magic damage and physical damage because we've got both types of resistances coming out of the bottom. And then we're neutral on this side, so we can basically do whatever we want here. Now, if I was on an apprentice, actually, if I was on the apprentice or the huntress with these lane resistances, I would still DPS from the same spot, which I'm going to stay right here most of the time and shoot up this lane, and that allows me to also assist this lane a bit. I'm going to leave the far left on its own, even though that's a lane that I could easily be taken down. Just doing some damage on it. So we're going to start off with Elemental Chaos. So we want Elemental Chaos on the physical resist and on the neutral lanes. So we see this side is physical resist. So straight up from the blockade to the left facing this way, we're going to go ahead and put 5 Elemental Chaos traps with a 6th one right here, pretty much centered next to this purple plant here. The reason being is a lot of mobs get hung up right here, so it's a nice place just to add a little additional damage. Now we're going to come on over to this lane. Since it's neutral, we're going to use Elemental Chaos as well. And we've got room for 10 traps. Doesn't matter how you lay them. Spread them out, do whatever you want. Just throw 10 traps around here. What do we got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got 2 more. Just stretch out 10 traps on this side. You want at least 2 of them on the blockade to help DPS down any of the bosses that are sitting there pounding on it. Alright, now we need to switch to the magic resist. So we're going to change over and get rid of Elemental Chaos. And we're just going to lay down some regular explosive traps. Now, just right next to these first 5 elemental chaos, we're going to go ahead and put down explosive traps right next to them. That way we're covering both types of damage on this lane. And I'm going to put my 5th one just off to this side of this tree here. Now, this side is going to be same as the far right. It doesn't really matter where you put them. Spread them out a little bit. Do whatever you want. Get a feel for it. Just slap down 10 of them on this side. That's all you're going to have enough DU left for. Alright. So now I'm going to hop on over to my DPS character and get this started. Like I said, I'm going to be spending the majority of my time right in this area. That way I can hit both of these lanes. Ideally, this would be my physical resist lane. And then I could set it up with elemental chaos over here and completely ignore it, except for helping out with flyers. Now, in Wave 1, there are no flyers. However, you're going to have to pay attention to them. Flyers really are your only downfall with this strat. The Frosties do a pretty good job at taking them out, but they're not going to get them all because the freeze is a proc, so it's not guaranteed. Another important thing, if you're bringing along a Huntress for DPS and you have the sticky nades, by all means throw down some sticky nades right up front before you even start the wave, as you know, if you get 3 rows of sticky nades down there in the front, that will take out quite a few of the first pack as they come in. You want to quickly collect up a little bit of green mana, as you are going to have to do some repairs here on Wave 1. Just like every other map, the farther along you get, actually the easier it becomes as you get higher in waves, because you get to upgrade your traps and your blockades, and with the exception of bosses, there's not anywhere near as much healing necessary. Now, we got no flyers on Wave 1, so I'm just going to do what I can here to tear things up. I'm actually in gold collecting mode now, so I've got gold bonus large spheres in, and not any damage spheres. Now you see we can go ahead and throw a little heal on that one. Let's collect up a little green mana over here. You always need to be conscious of where your blockades are at. Now, as you see this run, I was lucky enough to get a mini-map, and we all know that Life Root, the mini-map, is a little bug and disappears very frequently. If you don't get your mini-map, there's no reason to exit out and restart, but you just have to pay a little closer attention. You have to always look at where flyers are at, and always check your blockades and see where their health is. And there we go. Wave 1's a piece of cake. And we're already set to start strengthening the setup here. Now, to start Wave 2, you're going to want to look at where the boss is going to be coming out of. Now, as we see, it's going to be coming out of the low root, which is the physical resist side. So I'm going to buff all of the center lane up one time. Even the explosives. I'm going to go ahead and get them all juiced up all the way across. Of course, the first upgrade gives the biggest advantage, so you always want to make sure you get everything upgraded to at least 1. Now I've got 228 left. I'm going to go ahead and throw an upgrade on each of these blockades, as the healthier your blockades, the easier your time is. 128 left. Now this lane, since it's going to be unattended the majority of the time, I definitely want to get it buffed up quickly. Now, another important thing to note is on just regular Nightmare 4 mode, a boss never comes out of the birch path. Or, at least in like the 100+ times I've done it, I've never seen a boss out of the birch path on regular Nightmare 4. Now, in other game modes, they will come out of there, but not right in regular Nightmare 4. So let's go ahead and get some sticky nades down before any of these baddies get down here. And they are hugely helpful. Now, they stay on the ground for, I think it's about 40 seconds, 35 to 40 seconds, without exploding. So you can get 3 rows of them down. And if you do, they're going to significantly put a hurting on the very front of the pack that's coming out right at the beginning. Once you get your little burrower down, you want to focus on flyers. From wave 2 on, you have to be conscious of flyers every time. Flyers and blockades are your main 2 priorities. If you find yourself sitting there spraying damage into a crowd and not paying attention to flyers, you're doing it wrong. This goes for co-op as well. If you're a ranged DPS class, you're kind of expected to assist with flyers. So don't ever get caught standing there staring at the ground when you should be looking up. Flyers must die. Now we got a boss coming in here, so we're going to want to pay close attention to this blockade in the center and make sure it stays healthy. But you also need to take a look at the other lanes, as you see like that. Well, both lanes have some stuff coming through. Now our main focus now needs to be on this overlane. But that your right or left blockade could end up going at any moment. So you definitely want to always just stay conscious of where they're at and if they're taking damage. So this one you see is starting to take a little damage. I'm going to go ahead and slap a heal on it. Alright, boss down, and we can focus on just DPSing down the rest of the baddies to finish out the wave. Now I forgot to show, the 2 large spheres I'm using are the increases gold by 30%, and then enemies killed by heroes have a chance of dropping 100 gold upon death. Alright, so now you see we've got a boss is going to come out of the overpass lane up top, and another boss is going to come out of the low route. Now, since we've got a boss coming out of the overpass lane, we want to go ahead and get that far right side up 1. You want everything up 1 notch. Now, I kind of got mixed emotions on it. It's almost better just to dump it all into the traps up front, but you can be a little lazier and pay a little less attention if you do up your barricades as much as you can, your blockades, along the way. And got this side almost finished up. Next wave should do it. Now you see on the mini-map, this third wave we're going to have 3 lanes of flyers. So we need to be paying attention. I'm going to go ahead and get 3 rows of sticky nades laid down right up front here before I start the wave. That way I can ignore at least the first pack out of this side and just focus on getting those flyers down. I'm going to wait until I get 3 rows of them down. There's 2. You can go ahead and start it at 5 seconds, 3 seconds, or whatever, just to give them an additional second or 2 on the ground. Now if you watch the pack coming out of the front, they're going to take quite a hurting. 37,000 damage for every one of those sticky nades that blow up. The sticky nades make things easy. Now back over to focus on flyers. Once all your flyers are clear, then you can start looking into where you want to really defend. Now, since I'm using those spheres for gold collection, I want to make sure I'm getting as many hero kills as possible. That's kind of why I like staying right up here, where I can kind of spray into both lanes. We got the Plaguing Hawk coming through on the right side here. And it looks like I'm going to have to pay attention to the right side a little. However, before I go over there, I got flyers that are coming in. I actually waited a little long on them. And that's what ends up happening. We should still be fine with no problems. But I definitely want to get right over to that right lane and check that blockade out and make sure it's going to be alright. It actually didn't take any damage, so got lucky there. Just throw some ups on these others just to get them completely capped off. And then now we can pretty much just burn this Plaguing Hawk. and help get this lane clear. We got quite a few baddies coming up right behind this Plaguing Hawk here. So Plaguing Hawk down. Now if you see on your mini-map, the left lane is starting to get a little heat. Quite a few guys coming down there. No flyers, it's all little guys, so it's very easy to take out. But you definitely want to make sure you're maximizing the trap's effectiveness by helping to DPS it. You know, the more DPS you can add to the mix, the easier time your traps are going to have. Now let's go ahead and get this blockade bumped one more time. It's at 500,000 now, which is way more than necessary. But like I said, it allows me to be a little bit lazy. Now we've got a few more ups we need to throw down on this side to complete it out. Now we've got everything except our Frosties at one upgrade level. If you upgrade your Frosties, you're going to get a little better range out of them, which is nice. But you can almost get away with not even worrying about them and upping them at all. So we're going to need 2 upgrades over here. So now we've got all of our blockades up to 520. Wave 4, there is no bosses. It's just all baddies. So we can just throw upgrades wherever you want. I'm going to pop these traps right on the outside up a notch. And then go ahead and get things started. Gonna get some more sticky nades laid down here to provide a little bit of a greeting for these guys. And then I'm gonna have to watch out for that burrower and then those flyers. So as soon as he's down, looks like he's just about there. I'm gonna switch back over to flyers. Now remember, the flyers have no resistance, so by all means use your Phoenix Flame. It is very effective, and it goes through the entire row of flyers if they're all lined up. There we go, all the flyers are down, and I can switch to just grind mode and DPS these packs down a little bit. There should be another set of flyers coming. Yeah, here they are now. There's always going to be more than one group, so don't just burn down the first set of flyers and think you got it, because you could end up getting overwhelmed at the tail of the wave. There's quite a few waves where large packs of flyers come out as the last mobs to come out of the group. More flyer burning. Now this bow, of course, I'm not getting, since none of these mobs are poisoned, I'm not getting taking advantage of the passive on it for the explosion. But the reason I use this bow is it's just the highest DPS weapon I've found so far, so sticking with it until I find something better, of course. Same thing as always, as you're burning the packs, make sure you're staying aware of what your wall health is at. Looks like we're pretty good shape, just about all the way around. Burn down these last 17 and be done with it. Couple more. There we go. Alright, now we don't really need to put anything else into our blockades. We can leave those where they're at. If your blockade health is lower, you know, of course you're going to want to go ahead and throw another upgrade on those and get them maxed up. Like I'd said before, when I first started this, I believe my full starred blockades were just over 300,000, so they don't need to be where mine are at here to solo this. Now we see wave 5, we've got a baddie out of the shadow lane, another baddie out of the overpass lane. Now I am going to go ahead and strengthen up this side a little bit, just because with the mixed resistances here, we're not getting the effectiveness of both sets of traps. That should get us started. And then just go back. Same old deal. Same routine. Get some sticky nades laid down. Looks like I lost one up top there. It's alright. And then we see there's a flyer coming in. Get one more set of sticky nades down before I switch to the flyer. See, we got flyers on the far left here. You can pretty much ignore any ground mobs on the this side here, as long as you're making sure that the blockade doesn't die. If your blockade stays repaired, you can ignore everything but the flyers. Always be conscious as well with your abilities. Like the Phoenix Flame, of course, is delivering magic damage. So I want to use it on the lane that has physical resist, where you know, the magic resist lanes, of course, my Phoenix Flame is not going to be anywhere near as effective. Also, you want to take advantage of those environmental traps, like we get the big jet turbine on this one. Oh, the flyers, so many. This is a bit of a lengthy video for just recovering from my illness, so you'll have to forgive me for my crackly voice. I'm still not quite 100%. And you see, I almost, you know, babbling about, I almost failed to up that blockade. Now, these guys hit those blockades hard, especially if there's a group of mobs on them. So if you wait until they start flashing on your minimap, there's a good chance you may have waited too long. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the passives, but you definitely always want service call on your gloves as a DPS character, as it's going to increase your repair rate during waves. Just about there. They're all frozen up. Now, even though, you know, the best upgrade for me for a weapon right now is going to come from Incursion, I'm still always looking at these bows and hoping, yeah, another 7% tripwire doesn't have defense power, so that one's going to end up going to the vendor. That's alright. Alright, so we got wave 6. Let's check out our blockades. They're healthy. Now, this wave we're going to have two boss baddies coming. One from the low route and one from the shadow lane. They're going to both hit the center. And then a third from the overpass lane coming down on the far right. So once again, since my center area here is my weakest spot, having the mixed resistances, I'm going to go ahead and just throw upgrades here. Upgrade where you want to upgrade. As long as everything gets to 1, you're pretty much good to go from there. Do whatever else you want. See, I've got 3 spots here. I'm just going to go ahead and pop those up. And let's get wave 6 started. Now, wave 6 and 7, of course, are the most challenging. But on the same note, you have your traps and your defenses upgraded a little bit better by the time you get there. I always like to get rid of the burrower, even though it would probably be better to save that and burn out that whole pack, just because the little burrowing assholes are just a pain. I wish that proc was a little bit higher on that gold large sphere with anything killed by a hero has that chance to drop 100 gold. It would be nice if that was a little higher percentage. Hopefully they introduce a upgraded version of that down the road, as things are expensive. Even with the changes they've made over the last several months to the economy, things are still very pricey, so you're going to need lots and lots and lots of gold. Now, I am completely broke right now, and that's why I'm using those spheres. Instead of using spheres to increase my DPS, I figure my DPS is good enough. It's still going to help. Alright, middle blockade getting a little weak. And you see we got the balk coming up through the middle, so I'm just going to stay here in DPS for a while. But at the same note, I'm going to keep an eye on this blockade, because I do have, what is that, a Plaguing Hawk? Yep, a Plaguing Hawk coming in hot and ready to tear things up over there. And we're getting it done. Got one more flyer in the mix. The only reason you want to really leave your lane at this point is if you get more flyers. Now, if you pay attention to those dive bombers like that, you won't have these death problems like I'm having at the moment, because you can burn them down before they get to you. See, it looks like that blockade's not taking much damage, so I'm just going to stay over here and focus on this one, as this one is taking damage with just the sheer number of baddies rolling up in this lane. I'll be coming along. The blockade just didn't take much damage at all, so I'm just going to ignore it for the moment. So you get that hawk burn down, and then we're pretty much set to go into wave 7. Die, you bastard! There we go. What did we get there? A relic. Nothing to write home about. And let's see, for wave 7, same thing. I'm just going to throw some random upgrades around. You see we got 2 baddies coming out here. However, the left side has got quite a few coming. And it looks like it could be a difficult wave for this side. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some upgrades in here as well. Now, it did have, as you saw, there was 30 of the little guys that are pretty easy to take down. I'm going to leave it there and leave myself a little bit to do some repairs. None are really necessary anywhere yet. I'll put a light one on that. And you see the first flyers are coming out. Just going to try to get a few sticky nades laid down before the flyers get here. Or before they get in range anyway. There we go. I can't stress how important it is to kill the flyers. Although the Frosties do a great job with them. You'll be way better off if you're allowing your Frosties to do a great job with them as a last resort. And you go ahead and take care of those flyers. Dying to a dive bomber is better than one of your towers dying to a dive bomber. So, by all means, throw yourself out there and take one for the team. See, we should have, with 100, anything over 100, and you're not going to have a problem running out of DU to repair. So, if you've got over 100, just get right over to DPSing down these bosses and repairing your blockades. Now, this middle lane having 2 ogres, they do have a tendency to walk over the blockades from now time and time again, and it's a known issue. The devs are working on it. As you see, he's actually walking up a bit right there. Oh, hopefully I can burn him down before he gets over it. And he's over it. Oh, and he's... oh, got him down anyway. Let's go ahead and get this blockade juice back up. Keep an eye on the health on that one. It looks good. Alright, so the center wave is down now. As long as that right blockade stays healthy, you can pretty much just ignore the boss. Now, of course, obviously, if you help DPS it down, it makes things go a lot quicker. But while that guy's going, as long as you've got a repair going on your blockade, by all means, switch off and take down flyers and such. Make life a little bit easier on the end. See, there's a frostbite tower down. I think that was due to a flyer. I'm going to go ahead and throw a repair on that. Well, no need to even throw a repair on that one. We're at the end. 43 baddies left, and it looks like they're all coming through the right side, and it looks like they're all easy little guys to kill, so should be a piece of cake there. And we got the easy win. Big change from my first Nightmare 4 run. But there is the step-by-step guide to starting off solo in Nightmare 4. I'm hoping this helps everybody out, because like I said, I know there was a lot of people that were concerned that they weren't able to make the jump from Nightmare 3 to Nightmare 4, and it really actually is pretty easy to handle in Nightmare 3, as long as you pay close attention to the blockades and the flyers. So let's see if I got lucky and got myself a 10% tripwire bow. Another toxic shock. That one's doesn't look all that attractive, so it will definitely be headed to the salvage yard. So thanks again for watching. We'll be back soon with a lot more DD2. I'm going to play around with some different setups for this map, since this is currently kind of the most popular grind map still, as it is one of the easiest ones to do solo, even after all of the changes. So thanks again, and we'll be back soon. See ya!